so different.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, my We Are Not So Different family. Thank you so much for choosing to spend another time with us. This morning's guest, we have Miss Chelsea Page. I'm sorry, Dr. Chelsea. Let me get it
Yes.
right. Oh, let me get it right. Dr. Chelsea Page joining us this morning. How you doing, girl?
Oh my gosh, I am so good. And I know I'm already buzzing because this conversation is going to be next freaking level. Next level.
Yes, yes. You know it get good, so I'm gonna let y'all in on. There's always talking right before we hit that record button. You know it get good when we already getting sassy pre-podcast talk. I was like, girl, let's stop playing and hit the record button. So yes, I'm ready for all this sauce, all this juice, all this tea, or whatever you want to call it. So before we get started, I want to give just a little bit of background about Miss Chelsea, because there's always somebody that's going to ask for credentials. So you notice, so I put some respect on her name and said Dr. Chelsea Page. So she is an intimacy coach that helps women embody and amplify with power and pleasure in life, business, and relationships. Dr. Chelsea Page.
Yes. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction.
You're welcome, love. You deserve it. I want all the respect put on your name, because doctor, that's next level. I didn't make it to the doctor level. I did get my master's. I also have dreams. I almost want to call them nightmares about going back to get my doctorates. But I'm like, so definitely want to put some respect on that doctor for you. So my babies, y'all know how the drill, y'all know how it works. Find your favorite spot on the couch. Get your favorite drink, whether it's Kool-Aid or Kvassier, or maybe a little glass of wine, whatever it is. Snuggle in and get tuned into this conversation. So, Dr. Chelsea, everyone gets the same two questions that come on, just so we can have a little insight into like your brain and all that good stuff. So you're going to get the same two questions I ask everyone else. Number one, if you had the undivided attention of an audience of your choosing, who would that audience be, and what would you tell them?
I love this question. Most definitely women who are on the rising journey and expanding journey, and that they're ready to like fucking do it their way. Excuse my language. Like,
no, we free here.
Do it our way. Just be free. Women who are sick of the shoulds and ready to live that soul aligned life, and just telling them that you can do it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And find someone to get support, and let's release the magic inside of you. And that don't let your BS thoughts block you from the magic inside of you. That sums that all up.
Yes. First of all, I love that you're so real, girl. I feel like we could be sisters in real life. My sister from a different mister. You said, don't let the BS thoughts block you. And I don't care who you are. I know, and I say this a lot, babies, but I need y'all to understand, I'm not trying to minimize the male experience, but I am a woman, so I speak from a woman's perspective. But I'm sure just as women have those BS blocker thoughts, men have them too. But I feel like, why do they hit so hard? Or is it just me? Like I tell other people too, like, no one can ever be harder on me than I am on myself. And I know a lot of that comes from those BS thoughts. They're like so invasive, and they have a tendency, they can be crippling, like will have you bound up if you let them. But I love that you're like, my BS activator is on. Let's cut those suckers off. Like giving women a way to either block them or stop them or realize them for what they are, talk them through them or whatever. But yes, I look forward into delving into that. Yes. And then number two, if you had the chance to speak to a younger version of yourself, let's say 4 or 5-year-old little Chelsea, I'm just Chelsea from the block. What do you think little
Mm.
Chelsea needs to hear?
You are perfect just the way you are, and you are love. You are love, so you never need to try to seek it or find it elsewhere. And I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, and I love you. That's what I would tell her.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And I love hearing the responses when people answer that question, because a lot of the stuff that we would tell our younger self is the same thing that we need to hear right now. Like, who doesn't want to
Yes.
hear right now, girlfriend, you are perfect and you are loved and you are valued and you are worthy, all that good stuff. But yes, all right, little Chelsea, you've been put on notice. You're perfect and you're loved and you ain't got to look for it elsewhere, boo boo. That part.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. If I just knew that earlier, then holy cow. I feel like the sooner that us women learn and know how amazing we are, how sexy we are, how magical we are, how divine we are, how just freaking magical that we are, then we actually get to live the life that we're meant to live rather than hiding and shaming ourselves and quieting ourselves and playing small. Like, no, nobody got time for playing small. No.
Nobody got time for that. Nope. All right, so let's hop right in. So, as y'all know, I be stalking my guests. You got to make sure you know who you're talking to. So I'm all over Miss Lady's I'm sorry, Dr. Chelsea's website. I need for you to give me, because I feel like there's got to be a backstory. Because if you're telling me that I wish I would have known younger about my power and about my presence so that means there had to be a transition from where you are to where you are now, right? So give me the backstory about the whole Soul Queen Rising. Love the name, ma'am.
Thank
And then
you.
as we like what started it, the momentum, like how did it grow? How did you get to where you are? Like, let me be quiet so you can speak. Yep,
Thank you. Thank you. Well, oh my gosh, the transition of where I've been to where I am now, and even just the Soul Queen brand. To me, a Soul Queen is a woman who is in alignment with her soul self and in that place of amplifying her power and pleasure and divine presence and all the things that she does. And to me, that is so important because little Chelsea back in the day was the most epic people pleaser, perfectionist, overachiever, living life for the shoulds and the external. Like I didn't even know who I was, let alone what I desired and the life that I wanted to create for myself. And the healing that I've done internally, the transformations that I've done internally, the expression of myself and going step by step by step, that's what is so important. And that's what my whole life and as an extension, my brand and my business is helping women do the same as I continue to do the same, because this journey never freaking stops. We keep on going, we keep on rising. Like, we get more pleasure, more power, more presence of who we are, more magic. We get all of it, all of it.
So how did the power, pleasure, presence, because I feel like that encompasses your brand, because I'm looking at the
Yes.
Soul Queen Academy, I'm looking at these mentoring sessions, and I'm like, yes, love. So the power, pleasure, presence, give us a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, in a lot of the pieces around that is we can't be in our power if we are so worried about how we're looking. We're so worried about the judgments of others. We're so worried about how we should be living life. We're so externally focused. And same thing with our pleasure. We can't, whether it's sexual pleasure or just pleasure of like the tea that I have right now. Like, this is a pleasurable experience to be having this podcast, like this whole right here, this is a pleasurable experience. And to be able to really sink into it and to really just feel the of life is so powerful in of itself. And then when we combine those two, the feeling of pleasure in our life and expressing our power, connecting to our power, then we actually get to show up 100% as who we are, not some diluted version, not some watered down woman version. It's like, I am a MF soul queen, a motherfucking soul queen, and I'm showing up as who I am, and I'm not apologizing for it. That's what all of that encompasses. And every woman gets to have that. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. I mean, I do care, but everyone gets to have that.
Yes, girl. I feel like you could have dropped the mic there and that could have been the end of it, because I felt
Well, I
it like
have
when you
one.
were saying it. Go ahead, drop it, sis. 'cause- Yes.
Let's not
Okay.
break the podcast mic,
We
but
don't want to break the
theoretically,
podcast mic.
boom,
But y'all
boom.
understand. Yes. There is something powerful about being able to be present, living in the moment, and understanding that you are powerful and enjoying that. And I think that's, and I've said this before, like I've had multiple conversations with different people, family, friends, whatever, where here I go again, us as women. I love y'all, men. I promise I do. I love y'all. And maybe, maybe I need to start having some more men on, and y'all can give me a different perspective. I don't mind y'all hitting me up in my DMs and all that good stuff. I promise I love y'all. So women have a tendency to, I'll say people have a tendency to not enjoy their present status. Like, say if you're working a goal, and each little bit, each notch you climb, that's worthy of celebration, right? But we're so busy, we got our nose to the grind, so got our eyes on that major top goal, we're not taking the time to celebrate the successes that we're currently walking in. So being able to be living presently in that moment, recognizing your power and reveling in it, accepting that pleasure, saying, yeah, like you said, I'm a MF and soul queen, doggone it. That's gotta be, that's like the ultimate. Because if you can enjoy the ride as opposed to just focusing on the destination, life changes, man. Your whole perspective changes. I like that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I love that you hit on that point around celebration, because this is a place where so many of us deny us, because celebration to me is the climax of self-love. It's like the epitome of self-love, because it's like, I am so amazing and enough and worthy that I am celebrating that. Whether it's, I don't know, maybe you're on a health journey and you're wanting to lose X pounds, but you're not going to celebrate yourself until you reach that end place, which means we're only celebrating ourselves once rather than every single step along the way. Or say with money wise or whatever the heck it is, everything is worthy of celebration, and how you actually celebrate yourself is up to you. Sometimes I'm throwing a freaking party, and other times I'm simply sitting with myself, hand on my heart, and just feeling the pleasure of that experience and not forcing it to be what sometimes, and this used to be me, that I felt like celebration of things needed to be like some porno, like, ooh, I'm like jumping up and down and I got balloons and I'm so excited. But other times it's just a subtle, and I'm celebrating myself.
Yes. Whatever that looks like for you, babies, whatever that looks like for you. So I feel the need to interject this in here. Dr. Chelsea, she's a doctor in human sexuality. So how she's able to properly explain and interpret the intricacies that are involved in being that human and that pleasure. Like, I just need y'all to know that the girlfriend she's certified. Okay. She's got the credentials. Okay. So I know I'm jumping the gun here, but whatever, we out here. How did you say, let me go ahead, I want to get my doctorate in human sexuality? What led you down that path?
It's so interesting because so many people ask me that question, like, why a doctorate in human sexuality? Like, what's going on there? What happened? And it's funny, my mom, she always loves this, because she's like, you were always wanting to help people be fully expressed. And even she's like, I remember when you were, I can't remember how old I was, but I had this friend next door. I was maybe, I don't know, super young, like 7 maybe, I don't know, but I had this book about like where do babies come from or something like that, and I was showing him next door. I'm like, this is what happens. And I was just so enthralled around just the experience of humans, and then the sexual experience, and then just all of who we are. And basically, I love talking about the things that people shy away from, and that people are like, this is too vulnerable, this is too scary, we shouldn't talk about pleasure, we shouldn't talk about sex, we shouldn't talk. And I'm like, no, let's talk about it, because it's part of who you are, and it's
Hello.
part of our experience, all of us. Like
Each and
we are intimate, sexual, connective relation. Like we have a relationship with everything. And I feel that when we are fully in that, it's that pleasure experience that's in our femininity. And when we are in that place, then we get to express that, whether it's in the bedroom or out, I don't really care. We get to be fully in expression. And so that led me on a path of like, okay, I want to help people. And I took a class in my undergrad. I have my undergrad in journalism, which is random, but I still love writing. And I know, I was like, I don't know. And I remember taking this one class, and it was on the social construction of human sexuality, and how we are all constructed to view things in a different way, and how so much like society, religion, us as women, etc., are so constructed on how we see ourselves sexually. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And I'm like, how do I make this into an actual job? And I followed people who were doing exactly what I wanted to be doing. And then I found my degree program, and I did all the things. And now I continue to still grow and expand. So it's been a journey, and it's been all over the place, and I love it.
And you're 100% right. Like, because we are like relational creatures. What
Yes.
better way to, oh my gosh, Andre, don't go there. Anyway, so, but yes, I love it, all of it. Also, I was like, I knew there was a reason we were kindred spirits. You said you like to talk about all the stuff that other people don't like to talk about. Listen, you speaking my language now, because why not? And so I want to talk about one of the things we discussed prior to this podcast. We're discussing the shameful things that we don't talk about, but some of the things ain't shameful. Like sex is not
Yes.
it's not a 4-letter word. It's not a cuss word. And as you go into some of those areas that we don't discuss, and I don't know why, because every part of our human experience deserves some sort of exploration. Because I'm one of those ones all the time. And I have a friend where we used to do Bible study together, and she loves me, and I know she does. But sometimes I feel like I work people's nerves, because you'll give me a subject and I'll be studying it, but then it'll be a rabbit hole, and then another rabbit hole. And I go and I go and I go, and I will get lost, because it's like there's so much. But as I was saying, every part of our human experience deserves some kind of exploration to get to the bottom of why we think this way, or why we act this way, what motivates us, what is it? What is it? So why not discuss it, right? So what are, as a coach and as a doctor, what are some of the areas where you feel, I guess, carry the most or the highest level of taboo or shame, or don't tell anybody, without, of course, breaking any rules or anything like that, but like,
Well, I feel, and so I don't know if any of y'all have heard this, but I know in like, especially when I used to be a sex and relationship therapist, is the biggest thing that would always come in, and still now, that are taboo, is sex and money. So of course, this is what so many of like couples, etc., are always fighting and arguing around sex and money. It's because those places are so vulnerable, they're taboo, they have so many triggers wrapped around them. There's so much that's there. And both of those places I love helping women with is like having that good relationship with sex, and having that good relationship with money, and being able to talk about it and not have it be this bad thing, and to actually I love how you said before, like get to the bottom of what does this actually mean for me if I'm fully having an authentic, expressive relationship with my sexual self, or with money, or with whatever it is, and not having it be from, well, I I can't, I don't know, I can't masturbate because my parents told me no, or religion told me no. I'm like, well, and nothing against any of that. It's, but let's check in. How does that feel when you hold that belief in yourself? Like, does it actually feel aligned to you, or are you following a should and then shaming your body and then not letting yourself be fully sexually expressed? Because I feel God, whatever you believe in, gave us these bodies and we experience it and we get to be fully expressed and we get to feel the sexual energy move through our bodies. Okay, now I'm on a rampage.
No,
But that's
girl,
how I
follow
feel.
that rabbit hole. Shoot. Go.
And it's not shameful. And so a lot of those things come up in the work that I do, even now as the online coach and doing that inner intimacy work. It's all about disentangling yourself from, what have I been told about how I should live my life? And start to question that and go, does this actually align with the truth of who I am? Because when you actually are in alignment with the truth of who you are, it feels good. There's no resistance. It's easy. But if we have all these BS beliefs, and not all of them are bad, you get to check in with them, but it's
Mhm.
making sure that you're living your life that feels good, because it gets to feel good.
It does. It should, right? And I love the fact that you even included money in this piece.
It's
So
huge.
it is. How do I say this? So I was raised in the church. I'm still currently
Mhm.
active in ministry.
Fabulous.
So yes. So there are a lot of things that I feel as though I was taught
Mhm.
that I don't know. I don't know sometimes. But then a lot of the stuff was good. You know, the old folks say you chew the meat and you spit out the bones. So I
Yes.
know a lot of times women are timid
Mhm.
or insecure about the issue of money. And I'll say some because all of us ain't this way, are
Mhm.
insecure or timid about the issue of money because they are raised in a home where the man is the head of the household. And
Mhm.
sometimes, a lot of the times, they think that because the man is the head of the household, that he should also be in charge of the finances. And if you're in charge of the finances, if the man is in charge, if you, for lack of better terminology, alleviate yourself of that pressure, then you don't have to have the understanding. You don't have to have the weight of knowing how these things work. Now, I will say, that's how I was raised. Mom, she
Mhm.
always had a job. Sometimes she had multiple jobs, but she was bringing her check home to my dad, who was the head of the household. And I'm not debating the church
Right.
about that. I still feel like the man should be the leader, the provider, the head of the household. But I will say,
Yep.
nowhere in the Bible does it say the man has to be the one in head of charge of finances. I think
Yes.
this is me. Whoever is best equipped to handle the finances should handle the finances. It doesn't have to be about,
Yes.
the man can still be the lead. He can still be the head of the household, the protector, the provider. But if hubby don't know how to doggone manage a checkbook, then baby, hand it over. So,
Well, and I feel, and this is where we want to always be having conversation with ourselves and with our partner, is like, for me, I actually used to be in charge of the finances with my now husband, and it's what I had always done, and we kind of fell into that dynamic because he's like, I thought that's what you wanted, because I always did it, I always took it on, but the reason I was taking it on was for control, because I didn't trust letting it go, because it actually was my way of trying to hold on to safety, because oftentimes we hold on to money for safety, but that's not where we find safety.
right.
We get it in ourselves. So I was the one that was managing the finances, not because it was coming from this really beautiful place and this what would I say, this conversation between myself and my husband of what that would just make sense in our relationship. It was more of, I'm grabbing onto the finances, I'm doing all the budgeting because I want to have control. And that was part of a lot of my inner healing and kind of surrendering that so that he can be not the one in charge, but that leading energy, the masculine energy in our relationship. And for me to let go of the finances was one of the most vulnerable things that I've done, because that's me saying, I am surrendering myself, I'm surrendering that control, and I'm allowing to use that word, but I am opening myself up to him so that he can then now be in charge of the finances. And it was a big shift in our relationship. And of course, do I know how to do the finances? Sure. Did he have a learning curve? Because I've been in charge of finances. He had to learn how to do some of the budgeting, but he stepped up into it. So sometimes our old wounding actually is being in charge of the decisions we make. Actually, a lot of the time, decisions we make either around the sexual side of things, the money side of things, and we get to look at, where is this coming from and who's telling me it should be this way? Is it, an external belief system? Is it an old wound in me that's making me do this? Like, actually diving in to why we do things. Like, why do we do this? Do I actually like doing this? Is this actually in alignment with me, or is it not?
Right. Is it bringing me pleasure? I don't want to stress about the bills. If hubby can do it, doggone it. Also, since we mentioned like finances and sex, once again, raised in the church, active in ministry to this very day in the church. I love y'all. God knows I love y'all, but and I feel like some of the church people, some of us church folks, that we got our panties in a bunch when it comes to talking about sex. Why come we can't talk about sex? If I'm not mistaken, it's the whole chapter in the Bible that's paraphrasing or discussing the relationship between two lovers. Because here's my thing. The more you tell me not to talk about it, not to do something, the more I'm going to want to talk about it more, because I'm like, what are you hiding from me? And also, where are these little Christians coming from? If we're not having sex, where Christians coming from? So it's like, why can't we talk about it? Why can't we talk about it? Our church, I love y'all. We need to have some discussions about sex. So do you facilitate literal classes as it pertains to human sexuality? Is that something that you partake in? Is it more just like from a coaching standpoint?
I used to do some of the classes. I do more of from a coaching standpoint, but I have a ton, like on my website, I have a ton of classes that gets, like, I have a whole program around the sexual intimacy and relationship and having that comfort and talking about it and understanding the dynamics and, accessing it within inside of yourself. And a huge piece of it though is, I mean, gosh, ever since I started, because I've been doing this work for 10 years, the religion piece has been such a huge constant in that work, because I even talked to a client earlier today, and we were talking about the sexual part inside of them and how there's so much shame that's there, and it's not allowed to be free because this client was like, I was told it was bad and wrong. And so I completely shut this part of me down. And here's the sneaky thing. We're told to not do it, and then, but only maybe say, and I'm, generalizing here, but maybe told like, okay, it's okay only as long as you're married. But then, okay, how am I supposed to go from hearing since I was maybe 5 years old that sex is bad, and then I get married, and then I'm supposed to like flip a switch and all of a sudden I'm supposed to be open and feel connected to my sexual self? Women, we are not switchable. Like, we're not a flip of a switch. We can't do that. So if that has been the case for any of you listeners, is allowing yourself to do the inner work to let your sexual self be free. We are meant to be free, including your sexual self, and to do the inner work on expanding your edges of that. And that might mean, maybe it's allowing yourself to feel a little bit more of that pleasure when you're with your partner. Or that might mean allowing yourself to maybe wear a little bit sexier of an outfit. Or that might mean, after you're in the shower and you put lotion on your body, instead of just putting it on your body for, utilitarian reasons, it's, can you slow down and actually feel your body and love all upon it? We get to experience that part of ourselves. And we hear, there's so many places that say it's no, it's bad, it's wrong. And then a lot of us women, unfortunately, have a lot of trauma around it too, that we've had experiences where it's been unsafe. And so sex gets grouped into this bad, wrong, unsafe, shameful, and then we throw it in the corner.
And then when we, like you said, when we get married, we're stuck with this great gorilla, great ape in the room and don't know how to properly function with it. No, I'm serious, because you struck a nerve. And I'm glad that you said that this is something that you see often as it pertains to
all the time.
Yes, because it's true. Like I was raised Baptist. Oh, and they beat it out you. They beat it out you. And I don't want to say shame. I love the church. I don't want y'all thinking that I'm bashing. I'm not. I'm just speaking about some real stuff. Like I have seen young women who become pregnant, and you will basically have to go to the front of the church and apologize for fornication. But I don't know if anyone is considering the ramification, the effects that this is having on her mentally and spiritually, because it's basically causing her to shame. But sometimes, Father God, the man who was involved in the creation of the child is not made to come forth and say, hey, this is, so if I'm in that position, if I'm in a church and I'm pregnant and the man that goes there is there and I'm made to come to the front of the church to apologize to the congregation, I get to see this man not only continue on like nothing happened, but also continue to serve in ministry, I'm feeling some kind of way. And it's not a positive kind of way. So I don't know, there's just there's a lot of things that are tied to not concealing, but controlling, constricting the whole idea of sex as it pertains to,
and just women in power, because a woman in her full power is a sexual woman. She is in the full essence of who she is. And it's it even brings chills. Like we are so powerful as women. And this gets into huge, bigger conversation, is for so long and still now, I feel, and this is generalized between men and women, so I want to be careful with that. But for so long, men have been afraid of that power and not knowing what to do with that and trying to shut it down. And I feel like that's when that control comes in. And so we have these experiences with us women, is that we feel we're feeling that control, the suppression, and to not be in our power, when all of us get to be in power. It's not a competition, and it's safe for all of us to be in our full expression. And like those experiences, like I worked with hundreds and hundreds of women and couples in all of my work. And I've had people come into my office with experiences like that and they think that, oh, why is my sexual self shut down? I was like, well, okay, you were shamed in front of the church. And so you felt bad and wrong. And so of course you're going to shut that part of you down, but let's ignite that side in you to know that it's safe. It is safe to be a sexual woman. It is safe to be in that energy. It's not that you're going to go, excuse my language, whoring yourself out everywhere.
Right,
that's not
exactly.
what it is, which I think that's the fear. It's when we are really knowing and educated about the essence of who we are, then we are actually one of the safest beings to be with. But if we're not educated, like say a young gal is not educated around sex, she's not going to know what the heck she's doing. And so she can't make informed decisions for herself or men or anybody. So we need to be informed
Yes.
about who we are, all parts of us.
Yeah, all parts. And I've heard it said somewhere, I'm not quite 100% sure where, but anything misunderstood can be abused or will be abused.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
well, let me put this over here. I don't get it. So let me control it. If I don't understand it, let me control it. And that's what has happened a lot for, sex energy and women in power energy. It's like, I don't get this. So let me just control and shut it down and make sure that it doesn't get too big. And then so many of us women then carry that on through our life is let me control myself. Our inner masculine then does this. Let me control myself. Let me shut myself down. Let me silence my voice. Let me play small so that I don't get in trouble and that everyone else is happy.
That last part left a bitter taste in my mouth. So everyone else is happy. Ugh. Anyway, yeah, we're not gonna go there because who is over people pleasing at this point in their life? Me.
Hand raised. We're done. Done with that.
Oh, I feel like we've talked about so much, but there's one more piece that I want to kind of tie into all this, and we've touched on it a little bit. We've talked about trauma and things that we've maybe experienced in our youth that now we're trying to, for lack of a better word, correct in our adulthood. So I know one of your biggest things has to do with healing past wounds and helping people be better versions of themselves. So in whatever way you want to describe it, or whatever analogy you want to use, whatever example, what are some of the first steps? Well, I guess the first step would be realizing that there is an issue. How do we traverse that? How do we traverse that ground as we begin to do the inner work to healing those wounds and getting to a better place in ourselves?
It's a journey. And I know there's that cliche of, and you mentioned, I think even at the beginning, right? It's not just the destination, right? We celebrate the whole journey as we were talking about before. And it's like, for me, I'm still on a healing journey. It's never that we get done and healed and we're fixed. We're never trying to fix ourselves. We are on a journey of continuous expression and expansion. And when we do that, it's knowing 100%, do not do this work alone. Like, don't try to be all like, I'm an independent woman, don't need nobody to help me. It's no, let's get some help, find a therapist, find a coach, start reading books, like Google that shit. I don't care.
Yes. Come on.
Careful with the Google though. But like there's free things. Like, I have free classes all the time. Like, dive into this work. And as you do, you start, one of the biggest pieces that I use in my inner healing work is the balance between masculine and feminine energies, and looking at, so healing that relationship inside, and also looking at the emotions. And that's where we release ourselves from the prison of our past wounds, actually feeling them, processing them, and looking at, so there's a system that's called internal family systems, IFS, and it's parts work. And I do a lot of that parts work in the work that I do. I couldn't even begin to explain it all right now, but it's so valuable to know, like, oh, my people pleaser part of me stops me from expressing myself. And can I start paying attention to when that part of me shows up in my life? So there's a lot of nuances in it. And it becomes, I was explaining this analogy the other day on my Facebook, is we want to become the connoisseurs of our own life. And a connoisseur, like a sommelier, right, for wine, knows all the nuances and the difference between like this region of grapes, and what's the difference between, Pinot Noir and Pinot Grigio, and the tannins and all of these nuances. So become the connoisseur of your own life and dive in, and don't be afraid to dive in, and get support to dive into, because again, we're not meant to do this on our own. I have support. Like, I've got a team of people helping Chelsea. So This is how I got here, not just me, myself, and I.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. A connoisseur of yourself.
Yes. Know your flavors, what you like, what you don't like what's the nuances of your energy and your emotions. And it's again, it's a lifelong journey and a lifelong process. And I would say too, is ask yourself, why do I desire to express more of myself? Why do I desire to tap more into my power and my pleasure and my divine presence? Why? Because this work, I'm just going to tell you, it's not easy. Right?
Right.
It's not easy. This is why so many of us keep just being zombies to our life. We keep being on autopilot because it's so easy to be on autopilot and follow what we've always followed and follow the shoulds. So when healing those wounds on the inside and doing this inner work and releasing yourself from all of that, is when you allow yourself to do that, it's a practice, and you have to know your why. Excuse me, you have to know your why. Otherwise you'll get to stuck places and you're like, why the F am I doing this? This is really hard. And it's like, no, okay. And like, for me, my why is I want to see how big I can get. Like, how much can I experience? How much emotions can I feel in myself? How much can I expand? How big can my voice, my energy, everything in me, instead of small, how big can I get? And helping other women do the same. Like, that's it. Like, I don't know what that's going to result in and what that looks like. Am I going to make millions and help millions? I hope so. But along the way, I'm just expressing and getting bigger and expanding myself. And that's my why. It gets to be simple.
I love it. And I love that. So none of this has to be rushed. It's a process.
No.
It's going to take a while, like fine wine, like wine gets better over time. If I'm going to be a sommelier myself.
Yes.
And
well, and sorry, I jumped in. It's like, and if you think of fine wine, you don't just gulp it down and it's hurried up. It's like you enjoy the process. It's like, it's delicious, and you're like, ooh, what's this flavor? And it gets to be your life gets to be delicious. Let it be delicious.
Yes.
Savor the journey. Savor it. Don't rush it. There's no rush. There's not like some medal. Like, yes, I want to see how far I can get, but there's no rush and there's no comparison. It's healing yourself, and all of that old shit inside allows yourself to be free, and you deserve to be free. All of us.
I love it. And this is what you get to do for a living, girlfriend. Girl.
I know. I shock myself. Like, sometimes I'm like, wait a second. I get to do this and I get paid for it. Like, what the
girl?
Like, this is
yes. And I know you said you'll never know like how many people you impact, but if you just think about it, you impacting one woman alone has the potential to impact generations. Because if this one woman becomes free because of the services and the guidance that you have provided, now she can pass that down to her lineage. She got a couple of girls and or boys, and now they pass. Everyone's walking in a new level of freedom because of one seed that you planted. Girlfriend, you are impacting generations. Let that simmer in your teapot for a little bit.
Oh, it's so delicious. And this is where, whether you do it for your work like I do, it's each woman, like the power of a woman freed. Whoa. And so anyone who's listening to this, your path to freeing yourself from the prison of the wounds from your past and the generations too, like I'm freeing generation, like gives me chills, like all of my past family, like they didn't do this work because nobody taught them how to do it. Nobody taught us how to be in harmony inside of ourselves emotionally and energetically and have this delicious connection with everything. And when we do this work, we free ourselves and we free everyone around us. So whether you're, I don't know, a stay-at-home mom and you're doing this work, you impact your partner and your kids and maybe the people in your church and your friend groups. And there's so many people that get impacted. And then that's how we change the world.
Yes, that's girl. You're preaching now. We ain't in church, but you're preaching. You're preaching.
Come to Chelsea Church. Come to Chelsea Church.
Yes. Okay. So I have to ask, do you have any projects, anything coming down the pipeline that you're at liberty to share with We Are Not So Different?
Yes. Oh my goodness. This year, So this is a year where I'm taking a lot of action. So I did a lot of procrastination last year, fear, right? I feel fear too. So this year I'm going to have a book that's going to be releasing. I'm doing my own podcast. So the Soul Queen Rising podcast is coming out.
With the Soul Queen Rising, yes.
I know, so exciting. Totally gonna have to have you on that podcast. We're gonna have
I'm
an amazing conversation.
My name and a date.
Sign
I'm
you up.
there.
And I also, so the next new thing that's happening in the Soul Queen world is retreats. So I'm bringing in-person retreats, and the first one that's happening in Colorado in April, and there's going to be more in the future, but I'm so excited. Like, I can feel, it's almost like that snowball has really gotten to the edge, and I just need to tip it, and it's just going to get huge. And I'm so excited.
Oh my goodness. That sounds amazing. So you have to let us know when that book comes out. We're going to have to keep in touch. Yes, because first of all, I would like to make my grand appearance on Soul Queen Rising, because I know it's more tea to be spilled. As for this book, anything I can do to help you promote and or market, sign We Are Not So Different up. And all this... That Colorado, you're a little far away now. I'm in Georgia, but if I was closer, but for my people that's listening in the Colorado area, hello, y'all need to hook up with Dr. Chelsea. So tell my people, where can they find you? Give us names, numbers, website, social media handles, all the goods. Where can my people find you?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I hang out the most on Facebook. So just Chelsea Page on Facebook. I have a business page, but I'm not really over there. So Chelsea Page on Facebook. I have a Facebook group, completely free. There's free classes in there. I do new free classes almost every month. That's Soul Queen Rising. And then I have my Instagram. That's Dr. Chelsea Page. My podcast that's going to come out, that's going to be Soul Queen Rising. And really, you can find everything. If you're like, holy cow, that's too many places. So just soulqueenrising.com. That's where you can find access to my Facebook group, my social media, all my offers, like everything is there on my website. So that's the best place. And reach out to me. Like, you can chat with me, talk to me, my DMs, like come say hi on one of my posts, hop on a live and say hello. So don't be shy. I love connecting, and it's just magic. Women connected, freed women and connected women are just power, so much power.
Look, she ain't lying to y'all. You know, I ain't gonna gas you up about nobody, right? So I found her Facebook page, and let me say, girl, Dr. Chelsea keeps it popping. I be like, whoa, yes. So find mamas on Facebook and everywhere else that she listed, because, and I also thank you for giving out free services, because sometimes everybody is not able to, pay the fee.
Yes.
But I don't dare want you to believe like you have to, water down your prices for that. Because we talked about this before we came on. She got a side up because she got a lot of stuff popping off. And she's like, look, y'all better get in on this, because as of February such and such, the prices will be going up. That's right. So she knows her worth. So I'm saying, get in on the free level. If she's giving you materials and or resources to partake of, get your toes wet and you'll see that she's the real deal. Dr. Chelsea, girl, I keep struggling to say Dr. Chelsea because I feel like we good girlfriends and we have the good.
Just Chelsea. Just call me Chelsea.
But I want to put some respect on your name. So thank you so much for coming on. We Are Not So Different. I have really enjoyed myself. I really, anybody who is about uplifting and empowering, man, sign me up. I'll be your biggest cheerleader, because we're needed. People like you are needed desperately in the earth. So thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me here. And yes, just one last thing, tell your listeners, dive in where you can. Like, that's why I do free things, is because I want to be available to everybody. And so plug in where you can. Plug into like this podcast here, plug in where you can, and don't use money as an excuse. You allow yourself to free yourself and dive in. Dip your toe in, dive in, whatever the hell it looks like.
Yes.
Just dive in.
Come on in, the water's fine.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Yeah, it is.
All right, babies. Well, I appreciate you guys for tuning in to yet another episode of We Are Not So Different. I love it when y'all show up. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's winter time. But you know what? Wintertime, you can still go get a pedicure. You can still get a manicure. Go get a massage. Do something nice for yourself, man. You deserve it. And then hit me up in my DMs and tell me all about the ways that you chose to indulge in some self-care this week. And we'll talk about it later. I love y'all. Till next week. Peace.
We are not so different.